Hello, this is Caspar Chamberlain from Trained Personally. Now, this is a short presentation on how to eat a healthy plant-based diet or a vegan diet. So we should be looking at the main components that you need to stay healthy over the long term. And there are a few simple things we can do to follow. So I'm just going to run through these slides. I should try to cover most of what we need. Any questions you have, obviously, you'll have to send an email or leave a message via this page, and we can get back to you ASAP. Or you can book a consultation for a one-to-one, or you can book a talk at your school for your running club or any other issues that you might have related to diets. My speciality is plant-based. It doesn't necessarily have to be vegan, as there are certain issues with that. So let's get into that to start with then. So with the first slide. So when we're looking at a complete plant-based diet, we need complete proteins, and proteins are made up of amino acids. There are 21 of those, and our body makes many of them, but there are some that we don't get, about 8 or 9. So we need to combine different foods. So brown rice here in the picture, and black beans, and then some kale. So there's an example of those three. Combining those three will cover all of those amino acids, giving you a complete protein. Now it could be oats, it could be millet, it could be quinoa, or barley. There's all types of grains, and then our beans, our split peas, our lentils, kidney beans, our pinto beans, and then the greens, so all the types of vegetables you can think of: kale, spinach, cucumbers, lettuce, tomato, peppers, on and on and on, root vegetables as well. So all of these things combined will give us a healthy combination. So we'll cover all of those amino acids, and this is really where most people go wrong. They perhaps have some healthy things in their diet, but they don't combine these things. Now, they don't necessarily have to be on the same plate, but they should be a good part of your daily meals. You might be having oats in the morning, you might be having lots of veg at lunchtime, but make sure you have plenty of beans somewhere later on, or legumes of some description. It could be a green lentil soup. So in some way through your day, and then through your week, and then through your life, you're getting a balance of these three elements. So I really want to make the point here that this is number one. Grains, beans, and greens. It's all you really need to keep you very healthy, full of energy, B vitamins, other vitamins and minerals from the other foods, from the beans and the greens. So this is the best way to stay healthy. Okay, next up then is calcium. Now, lots of people think the only place to get calcium is from dairy products. Now, there's an acidity problem with dairy products, so we're much better off getting our calcium from green vegetables such as broccoli and almonds, as you can see in the picture here. There's also some spinach in the background, and you'll be surprised how much calcium there are in normal plants. Things like red peppers have got calcium in them, and cucumbers as well. So calcium is much easier to take in than you imagine. We don't have to have large glasses of milk and all this sort of stuff. Now, there is a little bit of an issue with calcium, and that being that if we have things like too much spinach. Now I've got excess spinach here, and we're going to talk about excess as we go through this slide. Unfortunately, oxalate content of spinach combines with calcium, and it takes it away and can leave a deposit of calcium. So that could be in the kidneys, it could be in a joint, causing some sort of almost arthritic discomfort. Now, this comes from excess. What we're trying to do here, and which we'll be doing in another talk, is talk about getting balance, getting a small amount of all of these things, not overdosing on one particular thing. So calcium from plants is more alkaline, it's less acid, so it's assimilated in a different way. But calcium, as we know, needs something else to be assimilated properly in the body. Calcium, of course, is needed for muscles to contract, and then we need magnesium to relax those muscles. So these things all need to be in balance. So there's one vital thing then. So when people ask you, where do you get your calcium from? almonds, green vegetables, crunchy red peppers, all of those things have plenty of calcium, so you don't need the dairy products at all. Some foods are also fortified with calcium as well, but you'll also see they'll be fortified with something else, which we'll go into the next slide. So vitamin D. So vitamin D is often added to many products to help calcium be absorbed. So here we go then. So we need a bit of sunshine really. Sunshine can help which gives us our vitamin D, which is taken in by the skin. That's going to help us absorb calcium, and it's going to make all of those elements work better in our bodies. Calcium is used in all muscles, so even digestive system will need, as the digestive system, small intestine, large intestine, have these pulsations, it's a muscle, although we have no control over it. So we need calcium to make all of these systems function. Now, of course, vitamin D during the winter, it can be an issue, and in the northern hemisphere, so we may want to supplement with a oral spray between 4 and 1,000 micrograms, just to top us up, or have a holiday in the sunshine and get those arms and legs out 15-20 minutes, no sun cream, just get some sun to your skin. But too much vitamin D can also be toxic, so if you've been out in the sun and you've ever had sunstroke, that is a cause of too much vitamin D, as it's a fat-soluble vitamin. It can actually be toxic. So that's something to be careful if you're out in the sun a lot, or if you expose a very white part of your body. The white skin doesn't have enough protection, and then the vitamin D is going to come in way too fast. So that's why eventually we develop a bit of a suntan during the summer to protect us from too much vitamin D. Alright, so let's move on to the next. Okay, fats. Most of the time people are getting far too many omega-6. Now, omega-6 is going to help us for inflammation when we've got a cold, or we've got an injury or a cut or something like that. We need omega-6. We don't produce it, we need to consume it, but we're getting it hidden in lots of foods. Buy a bag of raisins, and those raisins will be covered in sunflower oil, and sunflower oil is about 60% omega-6. And so you can see bit by bit we're going to start to get far too much omega-6 without even realizing it. So the onus here is on omega-3s, which brings down inflammation. So at the top of the list, flaxseed, followed by chia, hemp, and then walnuts. So all of these are going to give us plenty of omega-3s. Plant-based, it doesn't have to come from fish or fish oils, and in fact quite a lot of the fish oils are probably rancid by the time they get to the shops anyway, so you're much better off going for the plant-based version. So omega-3 fatty oils, we want those because we can't produce them, we need them to bring down inflammation in the body. I've added on extra virgin olive oil here. It has omega-6 and omega-9. Again, it's not particularly high in omega-3, in fact quite low. So just consider how much olive oil you may consume in your diet. Coconut oil has medium chain triglycerides, a bit of a tongue twister. No omega-3s, no omega-6s, no omega-9s. So that's a different type of fat. The issue perhaps with that is it has to travel a long way before it gets to our tables in the north of Europe. So have you got a coconut tree growing in your garden? Do you really need to be eating coconut? Maybe, maybe not. Avocados, same sorts of issues. Again, very healthy, but again, the sustainability issue may be a point to be aware of with both of those. Okay, so flax, chia, and hemp may be the ones to go for. Again, they've probably all got sustainability issues, but we're looking for some essential fatty acids that are not made by the body, and we need to consume them. So a bit like our proteins, we need certain elements, and these are omega-3s, omega-6s being the main ones. Okay, let's move on to the last, probably most important point, is B12 deficiency. Now, B12 is an element that we need in small quantities. It's stored in the body. It's a fat-soluble vitamin, It's something we need for our neurological system to function properly, and in fact, if this goes too low, we can actually do damage to our neurological system, permanent damage. So it's pretty serious. Now at the bottom here, you'll see I have a link on the Train Personally webpage. At the bottom of the page, you'll find, or you should do if the blog roll is up to date, the vitamin B12 warning. Now I did some tests, and after a couple of years of eating completely plant-based, and my numbers were low, and in this article I mention all the numbers. And then I took these oral sprays for 6 months to see what would happen, and then retested, and the blood test came back, and it was a positive improvement. We'd gone up by a couple of hundred points, which was great. So I'm very, very positive about recommending this. Something it says there, boost, and I think it's a B boost, vitamin B12 boost, and very, very good idea. I don't think you have to take it all year round. If anybody's got pernicious anemia, which is another problem, which is the absorption of B12, you may be taking in B12 but not absorbing it. So that's another issue which you'd have to speak to a doctor about. Now, if anybody's talking about eating meats to get B12, well, unless that animal is fed on grass, where the bacteria is then taken from the ground and then created in the gut and then passed on to the meat, if that animal is not fed out in the field like that, if it's fed some sort of grain, it's not going to produce any B12 of any great quantity. So even 35% of the population, even though they're meat eaters, can be B12 deficient. So that may be something you want to consider with other friends and family if their numbers are low, that they, even though they eat meat, they might want to supplement. Interestingly enough, blood groups A and blood groups O, A's tend to suffer a little bit more with absorption with the stomach, so they may have lower numbers than blood group O. This is very anecdotal, but again, another consideration when you go for a blood test, just to see what's what, and do ask your doctor, what is my blood group? Unless you give blood regularly and because it's always handy to know that, because there are all sorts of different things with your diet that may be beneficial according to your blood group. Let's move on to the next slide. So I mentioned it earlier, so excess spinach can bind and cause kidney stones, and the same at the bottom here, too many soy products can cause kidney stones. Again, protein powders and things like that if you're a potential bodybuilder. Again, too much protein, damage to the kidneys, to the liver. We don't need any of these things. If we start at the top, I'll go back to the top. Overeating, that's going to cause a lot of internal stress on our body. It's going to cause a lot of inflammation. If anybody takes the time to feel the size of their tongue inside your mouth after you've had a big meal, it will swell, and it probably swells for a reason. It's going to try and stop you eating anymore. In Chinese medicine, we call this stagnation. The stomach is trying to digest a lot of food and it can't. You need a long time. I normally recommend about 12 hours fasting from your last meal to your first meal, so overnight. Refined white flours and sugars feed bad gut bacteria, so periods like Easter and Christmas, and when we eat too much and drink too much. So we eat too many sweets, we drink too much alcohol. All of this is feeding a lot of sugar. And white breads and refined white flours being a big cause of extra sugar in the gut, and that can cause other issues as well. Tea and coffee, they both reduce iron absorption about 30%. So just question how much tea and coffee you drink. Probably in the morning, some sort of stimulant is okay, but come the afternoon, if we can get away without having that, and think about what sort of food you're eating. A little test for anemia is just sort of having a look in the mirror and look at the pinkness of, as you pull down your lower eyelid, just a little flash down, and you'll see how pink is that. If it's slightly pale, white, you might be slightly anemic. You might want to stay off the tea and coffee, and because your spinach and your kales and these types of foods are going to have lots of iron, and even oats. But of course, if you're downing too much coffee, you're pretty much washing some of that away. Now, the big elephant in the room for vegans is the cupcakes and all of that stuff. So it might be suitable for vegans. There might not be any any animals being hurt in the process, which is great, but it's not always healthy for the person eating it. Lots of E numbers, strange vegetable oils, refined white sugars, flavorings, and thickeners. Now, all of these can do a lot of damage to the intestines, not to mention your mood, your blood sugar level, and you're generally not getting enough vitamins and minerals as you should do from your grains, your beans, and your greens. So just think about it. Oh, let's go out for a vegan treat. Try and get it right 80% of the time, and you should be okay. But just be aware that most of that food, unfortunately, is marketed at you to sell you something. Alright, so there's some things about excess. There's going to be another talk about excess coming up soon, so let's just quickly move on to, I think, the last, or the penultimate. So eating raw, cooked or seasoned. So here you have some food from my allotment, some raspberries, some black currants, and a few lettuce leaves and a few runner beans. So obviously these grow at different times of year, mostly in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere. Interestingly enough, strawberries grew on my allotment in June. So we had strawberries in June, and then we didn't have strawberries in May, we didn't have strawberries in July. We had them in June, and that was that. They were done. So eating food that's in abundance in that season is perfect, and then moving on to what else is growing later in the year. Now, that's the season thing. I'm going to do a lot more on that. In fact, I'm actually writing a book at the moment about eating for seasons and the benefits for certain sicknesses, illnesses, energy levels, what sort of person you are, what sort of constitution you have. So that's going to be a very interesting book. Lots of recipes and lots of pictures. Cooked versus raw. Now in the summer we can get away with a lot more raw foods. This is also going to be mentioned in the book because they're full of water and they're cooling and the summers are warmer. And then our cooked food should be reserved for autumn, winter, and even into spring, where the spring can be very cool here in the Northern Hemisphere. Where we are right now, we're 51 degrees north, and that's pretty far up. So you can pretty much still be eating warming porridge oats well into April. So question, eating raw all year round, I think probably is not a great idea. Maybe if you've got a hot soup or something and you want to sprinkle something raw on the top, perhaps like some sprouted green beans or something, great. You got a combination, or a little bit of chopped onion, why not? But you really want to be cooking your foods as much as you can during the autumn, winter, and even into the spring initially. So let's just move on to our last slide, I think. Yes, just a bit of advertising. So I have a book called Fitness and Nutrition in a Week, Know More and Live Better. So this is a number of pages that looks at fiber in more detail, omega-3s in more detail, nutrition debt. There's also issues about sleep, different vitamins. There's some exercise stuff we can do. There's other recipes, pictures, graphs, links to videos, and much more. And it's an absolute bargain. So if you've got a Kindle Fire, even better, because you can see the colourful pictures. I'm recommending downloading that. There'll be some more books coming. There's a massage book out at the moment as well. And if you live in the Gloucestershire area in the United Kingdom, then you can give me a call and book an appointment for fitness, nutrition, or indeed massage. Thanks very much. Enjoy listening or reading to your comments. Until the next one, thank you very much.